Welcome to the second video in the cryptocurrency series. In this video, we will look at the workflow of the Bitcoin, how it functions, using a very basic real-life scenario. So let's start by understanding the definition of a Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is a digital, decentralized, disintermediated, trustless fiat currency. Now, I have highlighted each and every one of those words because they're each individually very important in describing the Bitcoin. But let's get to that later. Let's take a basic scenario, a real life sample case, if you may call it. A, B, C, D, E, and F are 6 individuals, and they are friends. They hang out regularly and love going to pubs. They all believe in going Dutch with their bills. However, the pubs in their area usually refuse to make separate bills due to the extra hassle. Thus, every time the bill arrives, one person pays the entire amount and keeps the bill to figure out later what amount everyone owes him. This system worked for a while, but soon they started having conflicts. Some members disagreed with the amounts they owed each other, and other people drank more than they could afford, and thus couldn't pay up later. This was an issue. So, A suggested that they keep a common record in a notebook. They created accounts and a common ledger in a notebook and updated it after every session. They used to keep this notebook in a place accessible to everyone. But one day, A realized that some of the numbers didn't match up and some values have been altered. This meant that they couldn't trust each other anymore, and he realized that having a common book simply wasn't enough. He thought about it a lot and came up with a brainwave. So next day, he called for a meeting with all the friends to introduce the new system. He said, "Hi guys, I've come up with a fail-proof method to ensure that we all manage this issue," he says, and hands everyone a notebook. "We will all keep a record of every bill and who owes whom how much. This way, we will all know how much you have in your account, whether you really owe someone that money, etc. Next time, for example, if C owes F a cumulative amount for the past 2 times we went out, we'll check out our entries to see if this is right. And while doing this, we will add up every value and calculate the remaining balance, but we shall not store it. If more than 51%, that is a majority of us, agree that the proposed transaction is valid, we shall approve of it and update our books with a permanent marker and validate this with our signatures. This will ensure that no entry is erased and every entry is validated. An entry's effect can only be reversed by proposing a new transaction to all of us. Thus, if someone wants to cheat the system, he must update a minimum of 4 books in this case without the original owner's permission. The effort and cost required to do this itself will negate any benefits he hopes to make. This way, we don't need to trust each other, we simply need to trust the system. Now, imagine that what they're exchanging isn't physical money, but a form of digital and fictional cash. This is the Bitcoin. Let's examine some of the characteristics that we mentioned in the definition. The first is that it is a digital currency. Bitcoins have no physical form. They're only digital. However, they're slightly different from digital cash. Digital cash is stated in its local currency, whereas Bitcoin is like any other currency. It has its individual value, which is denominated in terms of every individual currency out there. For example, the rupee, the yen, or the dollar. The second point, it is decentralized. Notice how our group in the example shifted from maintaining a common record to maintaining individual records. This is what we call a decentralized database system. Third, it was disintermediated, which meant that there was no one central person who used to oversee the approval of transactions. Everyone in the group gets involved in this approval process, and a minimum consensus of 51% is needed to approve a transaction. Fourth, the system is trustless and anonymous. No friend in that group needed to trust each other to participate. They simply needed to trust the system. Now, the Bitcoin network, unlike our example, don't have public identities. Everyone's identities are hidden, and their identities appear as random alphanumeric codes. This is achieved by a process called the hash cryptography, which we will look at into detail in a different video. Fifth, the system is immutable, which means no previous transaction can be edited. To reverse the effect of a previous transaction, an entire new transaction must be proposed to the system. Fiat. Just like most free market currencies today, Bitcoin is a fiat currency. This means that it is not backed in value by a tangible good, but an intangible good, that is trust. It has value simply because the member of the group believe it has value. They believe that everyone participating in the network will accept the value of this Bitcoin and use it as a legal tender, just like any currency. Except in a currency, the intangible good involved is the trust of the government that issues it. 7. It's cheaper. Since there is no middleman in this picture, and the friends are just using their own currency, they can exchange money at a minimum cost without paying an intermediary. It is also more secure. In our examples, the friends use signatures to identify themselves with the proposed transaction. However, Bitcoins use a much more complex cryptographic method called the hash cryptography to do the same thing. Next, it is deflationary. There is going to be an upper limit of 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be mined. Also, each Bitcoin can be further divided into 10 million units, ensuring that the Bitcoin doesn't fall prey to inflation while ensuring that there's sufficient quantity to transact. Now, this wasn't the first time that the concept of a digital currency was tried out. However, previous attempts failed at solving the issue called the double spending problem. This problem is present with physical money. Thus, one unit of digital currency can be replicated, allowing the user to use it more than once. The Bitcoin solves this issue using a decentralized verification model. Thank you for watching this video. In the next video, we will look at the economic side and analysis of the Bitcoin. This is Agnish Bhaduri. Thank you.